Hi, welcome back. This is David Clayton with the Affinitive Design Podcast by DEIV Architecture. I'm David Clayton. I'm the architect here at DEIV Architecture, and I'm just here to talk to you today about fees. People ask me all the time, what are your fees? How much does it cost to get a set of plans done? And I always have a hard time with that because I'm thinking, okay, well, that's a complicated question. Depends on a lot of different factors. The simple answer is, depending on the type of project, it could be measured by the square foot. It could be measured by a percentage of the cost of construction. It could be measured based on the number of hours that we perform the work. So there's a lot of different factors. Another factor could be what kind of engineers do we need? Do we need a landscape architect? Do we need an interior designer? Do we need structural engineering, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering? Do we need civil engineering? There's so many different sub-consultants that we could be using on a various project. So it's definitely a very complex question. And so one of the things that we can do as a service to help figure that out is we offer what's called a pre-design option study. A pre-design option study is it's kind of like a feasibility study. We basically take your information, the site, what you're trying to accomplish, and then we do the research. We figure out zoning ordinances, building code issues that might come up, and we provide a report to help you know how to get that project done. It's a relatively low cost fee in order to do a pre-design option study. But the great thing about it is if you proceed on to the next phase of design into conceptual design, or schematic design, or even the finished building permit set and construction administration services, we're able to roll that into the fee and actually save you some money later on in the design fee. So the pre-design option study, it's a great way to lower the impact of the architectural fees on the front end so that basically you can find out if your project actually has legs, if you can actually make your project work. But it also, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. So really simply, currently DEIV Architecture charges about $700 for a residential pre-design option study. We also have a commercial version which starts at $1,500, and that goes through into a much more in-depth study of what are the requirements and possibilities with the project to help you get started on the right foot. And again, these are fees that can be rolled into the design fee for the other services that we offer. So anyways, this is probably the easiest way to get started. On the question of what kind of fees might be the best for you once you actually get into design, this would depend on the project. If you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, if you have a really solid idea, like let's say you're building a house and you already have an idea of how many bedrooms, baths, how many square foot that you want, where the site is, what kind of design aesthetic that you're looking for, what level of services you're looking for, then we're able to put together a proposal pretty easy and provide a price that's a flat rate, something that is usually based on the number of hours that we think it's going to take to put together the work. Coincidentally, this usually corresponds pretty closely to a cost per square footage analysis of how much the design fees should be. And so that's another way that we can calculate it. Usually on houses, we don't usually like to do that on commercial projects because it's a little bit trickier with commercial projects. Again, commercial projects, you typically need mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. You typically need civil engineers. You typically need geotechnical engineers. There's so many different services that you need to get a commercial project off the ground. And these things are all items that you should really consider understanding that this is not going to be cheap, but it's also not going to be outrageous. Typically, an architectural design package for a commercial project is going to range anywhere from about 6% of the cost of construction all the way up to about 12% of the cost of construction. Versus a residential design package, it really just depends on what kind of residential project it is. If it's just a set of house plans that your builder's gonna make most of the interior design choices and stuff like that for you, or work with you on that, and you really just need plans for a permit, that's going to be a much lower price than a full design package where we're providing landscape architecture and interior design and even construction administration services, which on residential projects we don't always provide that. Not because we don't want to, it's because most people don't opt for that service. We wish they would because we feel like we can be a good service to them. And so you're probably wondering what construction administration services look like. That's basically where, as the architect, we protect you. We look out for your interests as the client. We're trying to help you on the technical side of things, so that the builder's not pulling a fast one on you. Most builders are good, honest, decent guys, but or women. Sorry, but basically most contractors are good people, but there are a few crooks out there, and you got to watch out for some of the techniques that they do to basically pad their pocketbook as they're trying to rip you off on different change orders and tricks that they do by not including certain things that they knew that they needed to include in the bid, but they didn't include it because they'll try to argue things like, oh well, it wasn't in the plans, which is basically a cockamamie statement. It doesn't. It's not valid. Finally, construction administration also allows us, the architect, to go out to the job site, be looking over things, making sure things are proceeding on path, and then even reviewing pay applications from the contractors, so that let's say the contractor's saying that they're 50% done and that they're 100% done on a particular part of the construction. As the architect, we can go out there, we can observe the construction and see for ourselves and let you know, the owner, we can let you know, hey, yeah, that's not actually done. They're not actually done with that portion of work. So it's a way to help protect you. And in some cases, if you have a construction loan, the bank's going to require that the architect do construction administration services anyways. And so it's a good idea to go ahead and just plan on having that service. It's not something where the architect's just charging you extra. It's something where we are there protecting your interests. That's our whole purpose, is to protect the owner's interest during the construction process. So anyways, this was just meant to be a short little podcast today, this episode, just to talk about fees. We'll talk more about it later, but on future episodes. But I want to thank you again for joining me on this episode of Affinitive Design Podcast by DEIV Architecture. Again, I'm David Clayton. I'm an architect based here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I hope you have a marvelous day.